guys and girls, and welcome to episode 179 of the F.Reality Podcast, your one-stop shop for all your weekly VR news. This week, we're going to be talking about a haptic feedback gun for VR called Striker. Oculus are selling refurbished Quests for just $200. We've got an interesting new business-focused headset from JVC, and Rowdy's going to give us a Rowdy science lesson in spatial computing. To round up the show, Zimmer's got some new releases for us to look forward to next week. But for now, let me introduce you to the team and find out what's been their highlight of the week this week. Also, let us know what you played in the chat so we can read out some of your highlights too. First up, he's an OG in the VR space, and some would say he's a master of the metaverse. It's our blonde brother from another mother. It's, of course, Nathie. How you doing?
Yeah, you could better say I'm ancient nowadays in the VR scene.
You belong in the VR museum.
Yeah, I'm a little dusty, you know.
This is the dried husk of a former YouTuber.
Yeah, true. Like this week, I felt so old because people are, talking about the Climb right now because apparently it's coming out soon. But I'm like, in my days, I was playing the Climb with the Xbox One controller because there were no motion controllers.
That's true.
and then also saying that it was one of the best experiences I've ever had without the freaking motion controllers. It was really fun. I remember really also trying to use my environment, my room scale environment, because I was so immersed even when I was holding the controller. It's crazy.
Oh man, do you
like
do you all
spray graffiti, right?
Oh yeah. Oh man.
I was going to ask if you had I know Mike has, but do you have a PS5 with those new fancy triggers? Because I'm just thinking, the grip mechanic on that grip mechanic with that trigger system, I think would be really neat from what I've seen of it. I've not tried one myself.
They're lovely. I want those haptic feedback triggers in all future controllers, VR and non-VR. They're amazing. I love them.
Oh man, I can't wait to see actual like what we have seen with Astrobot, where the controller is just getting used more. I would love to have that sub-genre of VR titles where you just use the gamepad. You don't need the motion controls. You just sit on your chair or couch and you just play some games that are just made for that. I think that would be amazing.
You mentioning Astrobot is actually making me sad because I played through Astru's Playroom, which is part of obviously the PS5.
Like a demo that gives you a middle finger.
It's so nice. Because... It's so good, and it's just like you just want it in VR. Such a shame.
Yeah,
but you're right though.
No, I'm all right. I wanted to mention something funny, or actually, I'm here with the facts because our podcast, we're not about, but we're getting closer to 6,000 subscribers on the YouTubes. Wow. That's one thing, and we are super duper close to having 500,000 views.
Oh wow!
Nice.
500,000 people have been watching this.
That's crazy.
Amazing podcast.
My.
Wow, nice stats there. Nice stats.
I know.
Any highlights this week? VR ones? No.
Well, that's my highlight. Right
that's
there.
your highlight. Okay, fair enough.
500,000 is not good enough for Mike.
So, next up, you'll regularly find this guy hanging out in the trees and chasing gorillas. He just loves to monkey around. It's VR streamer ZimTalk5. How you doing?
I'm good, Epic Beard. I'm good, thanks. I had to bring that in there from our trailer. It reminds me every week that Mike's got an epic beard, because if he ever shaves it, we know what he's going to look like, but you probably don't.
It would scare women and children. Put it that way.
Absolutely, they'd be screaming. I'm sure.
They would.
Just like in the trees in the forest. I feel like I was in Vietnam or something. This past week because I was running through the trees. It was awesome. I mean, Gorilla Tag, as we were kind of half joking last week, is a free game that you can get. You can side load it via side quest. You can get it on Steam, and it's crossplay across those platforms. And basically, just to boil it down, first off, it was my highlight of the week. And looking back over January and February, I was like, this is actually so far my favorite game this year, which is another thing, which is crazy. If you look at the visuals of this thing, I mean, it looks like GoldenEye on the original N64. It looks like shite, right? It really does. It's very low poly. It's a small cylindrical, I'd love to say prison, but we'll say, level with trees and stuff and tree houses that you're jumping around. And the game design is really simple, but basically your arms are feet, if you want to think about it that way. They're the only thing that really collides with a surface, and you're hopping around. But what is it? I mean, the cool thing about the game design is it's hardcore from the second you join it. There is no menu. There are no instructions given except for a painted arrow on the cave that you spawn in. Small spoilers here if you really care about like game design surprises for the next 60 seconds. So you jump over that, and then they make you ascend a cliff wall, and so you're kind of forced to learn the crazy locomotion mechanic to get over that boundary and then drop into this pit. And the second you drop into that pit with all these trees, you're joined to a public server with other players, and you're like, oh my god, yep. I'm in a game, I'm active. And then you're playing tag. You're playing tag with a bunch of strangers. The VoIP is dynamic and location based, so you can hear where people are, and you're straight away joined to this. I think last time I talked about it being an infection mode. So where you start with one monkey who has the infection, then spreads to a second, then spreads to 3, then 4, then 5, until everybody's got it, and then the game resets, and one person is it again. You can run your own private server, but even like configuring your name. You start off as this funky single color gorilla, and you're like, why am I this weird shade of purple or whatever it is that it makes you? And your name is just gorilla, so they know you're a noob. Because you have to then climb into a treehouse, which takes some doing. It'll take you probably 10 minutes to get to the monkey computer so that you can change your configuration. That's your settings menu, is they force you to go through that. I love that kind of game design. And
monkey
then
computer?
So, and then 10 people like playing like just fervorous action. This needs Gorn level attention in your play space. I'm saying it. I was knocking hands off walls and stuff. My wife was playing. Everyone was knocking stuff. Like, this game is going to hurt your knuckles or your controllers if you're not careful.
So you clearly find it better than Half-Life Alyx, but is it also better than Medal of Honor? Or?
It's not better than either of those games, but it is pure gameplay fun. And coming from a single dev, I think this is just incredible. It's really good fun. Comes from a VR creator, actually, a guy called Lemming, and it's just, you have to download this and
Lemming.
play it. It's so much fun. It really, really is.
So this should get a global release on PlayStation 5, on PlayStation 4, Xbox, everywhere. And it should get a physical copy too, limited edition, collector's edition.
Only two games need to come out, right? PSVR 2 lands. You get
this should be the PSVR 2 launch title. This should be to show what potential it has.
You get that and Grand Theft Auto 5 VR, and then we're good.
Okay. Wow. As a bundle.
Yeah. Oh, they go hand in hand, clearly.
Yeah.
I also checked it out because we're obviously playing tomorrow as a team of us.
Look forward to that.
I'd jump in and check out today. And like Zim, I think it was super, super fun. It was just ridiculous fun. I think that's the best way to describe it. And it's free. Like, you can't really complain. It's free. The climbing mechanics are really hard to master, I think. And I think that's part of the appeal, is the challenge of learning how to move as a monkey. But yeah, it's just simple, ridiculous fun. So go and check it out. It's free on Steam. It's free on SideQuest. Hopefully it comes to App Lab in the future.
Okay, talking about that, like, did you guys forget about the fact that we had a Planet of the Apes VR game?
No. Oh, that was so bad.
We did.
Oh, that was so bad.
I remember.
But
like,
wasn't that bad?
No, it wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty good. It wasn't.
What? No. Okay, for the first like 20 minutes, it's like okay, and then it turns into the world's worst shooter, where it's just crates and soldiers popping up.
But the start is
the first 15-20 minutes is totally fine.
But it was a free demo, right?
No, it was a game.
Oh no,
it was a proper game.
Yeah.
But going back to Gorilla Tag, it's just ridiculous fun. So go check it out on Steam and SideQuest. Hopefully it comes to App Labs.
I was going to say you're going to have a whale of a time, but that's not right then.
You're going to have a gorilla of a time.
Yeah, there you go.
So next up, he's the big brain of the group and loves to collect pictures of gerbils wearing fedoras. It's the one and only Rowdy VR. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing great, and you already picked my highlight right there. It was a picture of a how you call that creature?
A gerbil?
Gerbil?
Gerbil, yeah.
Gerbil.
No, please call it a gerbil. Please call it a gerbil, please.
I called it a big rat, but anyway.
It's close enough.
No, I've been doing great. I've had a very busy week. Didn't have time too much to be playing virtual reality this week, but I did get my dose of Medal of Honor, so I'm still continuing with that game in very, very slow paces, struggling my way through it. And indeed, like I didn't know, like some people already said to me, like I know that Nate said that I think Tyrell already figured that out, but there is this scene very much in the beginning of the game where they're gonna blackmail a certain officer because they have like pictures about them, and they show that to the officer next to you, which pictures, but you don't really see those pictures because they're in front of you and you're standing behind it. So what you can do then is you can just move to the front, leap over the table, use the space that you have available and just look over to see what it is that you're actually looking at. And it was a picture of a Gerbil wearing a fedora hat, and it just looks hilarious when you realize that is actually what is happening, because you see their faces, they go like, ooh, ooh, that's like really incriminating pictures, but they're just a picture of the Gerbil wearing a fedora.
And it's a Nazi Gerbil.
No.
Or is it one from the light side?
It's just the gerbil wearing.
Oh, it's not. It's not on a team. It's not picking a side. It's just neutral.
It's neutral ground. Yeah.
Neutral gerbil. I think we're playing the infection game right now.
Herr Gerbil.
Oh my god.
Sorry. Yeah, go on.
So that was your highlight this week.
That was definitely my highlight.
Peeking over and finding incriminating photos of gerbils.
Yeah, I was hoping I got to see something real juicy.
Are there any more Easter eggs in this game? I mean, there must be, right?
I think the game is an Easter egg.
So.
It's just
there's so much detail, because also when they're reading off text from the German police or whatever, they found a text. If you actually go and look over, the thing that they're reading out is literally what is written there. And all of the papers that are all of the letters that people are writing to each other, all of that is all written out. It's very, very detailed in a way, which is really cool to see that in a game, because you have that, in VR you can get really close and you can pick up stuff and look at that from a really close distance, which is neat, I think, because it really adds to that level of immersion that you're in this living world. It's well done.
Looking forward to seeing your thoughts when you finish the game.
Yeah,
we should definitely recap that when that happens. But yeah, solid recommendation.
Months.
Yeah, in 3 years.
In a year.
Well, if you continue looking at Gerbil pictures, then it's gonna take ages. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So before I get into what I played this week and my highlight, what about the chat? What have they been up to? Any Gerbil pictures from them?
No, they have not been looking at pictures from Gerbils in Medal of Honor.
I love the fact that you call it Gerbils.
Please don't call it Gerbil.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm saying.
But that's what Mike said that we should call it, so we call them
gerbils.
Gerbils.
Pinning it on my
No, Gerbil. That sounds better in German.
Gerbils, yeah, that's what it sounds very German.
Eine Gerbel. Eine
German
Gerbel.
gerbils or gerbils. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go deeper into this because then it's gonna,
spiral
we just
out.
I just said we almost hit 6K. Let's not ruin that.
It's coming down, boys.
Oh wait! Before we transition, Mike, before chat says anything, I gotta update on this. It should be short, but this week, in a surprise turn of events, 4 weeks later or whatever it's been, PlayStation actually refunded my Hitman 3 out of the blue.
Oh.
They said, "Dear Jim Barnaby, we are so sorry.
Jim.
We would like to give you your money back." And they finished my case and gave me all my money back, £55 back in my account. So good on you, Sony, for turning that around. I wasn't expecting it, but it shows that their complaint management system works.
Wow.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. Congrats to Mr. Barnaby.
Thank you. So what does Chad have to say then?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused here. So we have Sampler 19, who's gonna try Microsoft Flight Simulator on the G2 this weekend. May his frame rates be high and his temperatures low. Then we have Dave the Psycho, who finished Vanishing Grace and played Cartridge Monsters. Then we have DJ Cat, who has been playing with his bones in Boneworks. Watu UK has been he has also been playing Flight Sim and a bit of Gorn too. Best combination ever. And then last but not least, we have Johnny Wells, who has been playing pickup hockey from App Lab. I hear a lot of good stuff about that as well, because sports VR games are quite rare
True.
So getting to play hockey is one of those things you don't get to do every day in VR. Yeah. So there you go.
Nice. They've been busy.
Yeah.
So this week I did jump into Microsoft Flight Simulator in VR to check out the brand new World 3 update, which dropped this week as well. The new update adds new sort of points of interest and added detail to locations across the UK and Ireland. So I thought this was the best opportunity to go and check it out for myself. I was using the Quest 2 with Oculus Link cable along with a Thrustmaster T16000M HOTAS, which is a hands-on throttle and stick. And it was probably the most performance-intensive VR experience I've ever played. It was very challenging to get running smoothly, even with an i9 processor and an RTX 3090. On high settings in VR, I was getting, on average, around 30 frames per second. But thankfully, there was some helpful YouTube videos from a guy called VR Flight Sim Guy. And I was able to get a smooth experience from his recommendation of turning on ASW in the Oculus Tray Tool to 30 frames. So basically, it's reprojecting up to 80 hertz, which is what I had the Quest 2 set at. So it's kind of, doubling the frame rate artificially, which works but isn't perfect. You still get some issues and artifacting. But overall, that made the experience way more enjoyable. And it was a really, really smooth experience after that. I'm not a massive flight sim guy, so I'm still kind of like dipping my feet into the pond when it comes to flight sims, but I found it incredibly peaceful, just kind of cruising around the skies, checking out some interesting sites around the UK. I appreciate that this experience isn't going to be the same for everyone, because obviously you really need that high-end system to push it to the max. It's kind of almost become like the crisis of VR to a certain degree. It's like, can your machine run this game? And I don't think many people out there will be able to get that kind of experience. And hopefully the game gets better optimized in the future for certain graphics cards, and they can just automatically set the settings required for that card, because playing around with the settings is the biggest pain in the ass when it comes to getting this game up and running.
On a pancake screen, it runs at least at 60, because of course with VR it's way more challenging.
Yeah, you can get it to run at 60 frames per second on a flat screen, but again, you would need a high-end system to do that, or like the Xbox, Series X machine or whatever it is. But I can definitely see the appeal of why people love flight sims so much, after experiencing this, because, it was so visually stunning, and checking out these sites and flying over London at night and seeing all the lights and stuff. It really is breathtaking. So if you do have the opportunity and you do have the system, I'd highly recommend it. But if you've kind of got a moderately decent system, then it might be worth waiting for further optimization from Microsoft in the future. But
and it's the only way to get in a plane these days, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't even like flying, but I loved it, so that's a testament. But one other thing I also want to quickly mention is a movie that I checked out this week, and you guys might like this. It's a movie called Willy's Wonderland.
Willy's Wonderland?
What kind of film is this, Mike? Because
I knew he was going to say that. So yeah, you might be disappointed. It's not a rude film, but if you're a fan of,
I'm into orcas, man. Personally, I'm into
orcas. Okay.
Is this orcas? Orcas.
Well, this will appeal to you if you're a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, because this movie is basically a Five Nights at Freddy's film. It features Nicolas Cage.
Oh God!
And he has to spend a night at Willy's Wonderland, which is this kind of like kids' party restaurant.
God, this sounds so.
But
Willy's, I love Willy's.
What the hell?
This is so mature.
The animatronic puppets have come to life, and they want to eat him. So
they want to give
concepts.
they want to give you wet willies in the dark.
Exactly, and he's not up for that, so he's like fighting them off.
Hey! But talking about Nicolas Cage, what was that VR experience again? Like the name?
No, that was
Nicolas Cage movie experience.
Oh, that was so bad. It was like called The Bureau or something like that. It was. You were in the
That was
desert.
Nicolas Cage. That was John Travolta.
No, there was one with John Travolta and there was one with Nicolas Cage.
There are two
on
separate
Nicolas
ones.
Cage.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
Some
very
kind of
bad.
detective series thing.
Yeah,
So
and it
obviously
was.
his rates are a little bit low then at the moment.
They were like beating up Mexican people in the bathrooms and stuff. It was just not. It was very low production. Like they tried with it looked like a 180 camera, but it was lo-fi. It wasn't.
Yeah. So would you say to jump into that VR experience before you watch this movie or after? Because is it lore in any way?
forget the movie. Forget the VR
forget the movie.
experience.
Forget the movie, everyone. Just
Forget the
dive
VR
into the
experience. Nathan's just gone on some crazy segue. But the movie itself, like it's one of those movies just that's so bad that it ends up being good, and it's almost got this kind of cult following already. You just turn your brain off and just enjoy
Mike.
it.
Is this new then? Is this like an old film?
No, it's fairly new. It's just come out, available to buy and rent on iTunes.
Okay.
So if
On
you're interested in,
iTunes?
or like whatever platform
Strange
you
place
rent and buy
to-
movies from.
You're watching movies through iTunes?
I got Apple TV.
He's just
Okay,
fucking,
yeah, sure.
he's just ribbing on you, Mike. But
Is
Snow,
this
he's gonna take you for a ride
is this
now.
still a VR podcast? What the heck? What's going
It's
on
about
here?
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, so?
Man. Go check it out.
Then it's
There's a tenuous link. This is why they just kicked him off the force, Yeah.
okay. But
This long dotted line.
Oh, it sounds like a fun movie though.
It's a fun movie. So go check it out.
Was it scary though? Was it any scary?
No, it's just ridiculous.
Okay.
But funny. Right, so before we get into the news this week, I want to thank the sponsor of this week's show, and that is, of course, Val, the Virtual Athletics League. Val are currently running the VR Winter Games, which started yesterday, the 19th of February, and it's the follow-up to last year's VR Fitness Summit. The VR Winter Games is a series of online tournaments in which you can enter and compete for your opportunity to win thousands in cash prizes in over 20 VR games, including games such as Arizona Sunshine, 11 Table Tennis. If you want to find out more about this tournament, how to enter, the games, and the cash prizes, check out the website onearena.gg, which has all the details. Links are in the description down below.
Can I make a suggestion? What if they add Gorilla Tag to their current list?
Might be a bit
Well, this is an interesting podcast. We're just...
It's hilarious to watch as well.
Imagine someone can win like $1 million playing that.
$1 million prize pool for Gorilla Tag.
Yeah.
I'd be down. I'd be playing.
Same.
Yeah.
That's definitely the
So
way to
yeah,
go.
let's get into the news then. First bit of news this week is about a haptic feedback gun for VR called Striker. Now, Zim and I are big fans of haptic feedback gun accessories. We've previously played around with the Force Tube from ProTube, and I even have a Force feedback pistol here from ProTube, actually. It's kind of like a prototype. Really fun to use in games like Pistol Whip and Crisis Brigade. It's quite heavy as well, so it adds a little bit more to it as well. But it just kind of adds that little bit extra, another layer of immersion, sort of providing you kind of recoil feedback when you pull the trigger. We're also big fans of the PSVR aim controller, right? We've talked about that on the show before.
Amazing.
It was super simple to use, a really nice accessory, didn't provide haptic feedback, but was great for use in games like Firewall, Zero Hour, and Farpoint, really sort of added something extra to the game. And the thing is, like, we don't really have an official gun accessory for like Oculus or Valve. So it's kind of interesting that, these other third-party manufacturers are kind of filling the gap. And the funny thing is that in the early days of Oculus, they were actually working on their own gun accessory. But then when they were bought by Facebook, that whole project was scrapped. And if you're interested, that was kind of detailed in the book called The History of the Future by Blake J. Harris. It's a really great book about like how Oculus started. If you want to go check it out, it's available on all sorts of book platforms. I'd imagine it's available on Amazon. But going back to Striker, this gun accessory, you've actually tried this, right, Nathie?
The Striker, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried multiple times. I feel like it's one of the standard accessories that a VR arcade has. Yeah, and it's basically like one huge plastic gun, quite heavy, I would say. Where on the backside you can slide in a controller. You can slide in a mixed reality controller. As far as I know, they also have one for the Vive controllers. Oculus, I don't know, because the Oculus products have never really been, used in arcades. The CV1 wasn't made for huge room scale.
Is that for the tracking, Nathan, that you slide the controller in?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, of course. Yeah. It doesn't use Steam VR tracking or anything like that. It just uses a controller and just looks at that, and then a game gets built around that. It does have, haptic feedback too. Not extreme in a way like you just showed with the ProTube, because it was always made for more, consumer friendly things. Like the guns were basically made to get people into VR in an easy way, because you hold the gun and you instantly know what to do with it.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting to see they are now going for the consumer market.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
The arcades are, well, most of them are closed, so they have to come up with a plan B.
Yeah, and this is the news that we got from Road to VR this week, stating that the company behind the Striker gun have received $4 million in funding to bring this accessory to the home market. The gun is planned to have trackpads on either side of the front grip and some capacitive inputs along with the trigger. So you've got a couple of buttons on there as well. Personally, if I was them, I would ditch the trackpad and move forward with a thumbstick like the PS aim controller.
Yeah, 100%. Trackpad's bad.
I can show you what that looks like. If you've never seen an aim controller, it's got little thumbstick.
Back it up a bit, yeah.
Just there.
Yes, you got it.
Which is really nice. And the thing
I like
is,
the combination of the two still, like the Steam controller had. I really like that trackpad on there, the original Steam controller.
The problem is that the VR market has kind of moved on now. We've got Valve with the index controllers.
I'm not talking about the Vive controller. I'm talking about the Steam controller.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But even so, I think people are moving away from that kind of control method in general. Like, I think people generally seem to prefer thumbsticks now, and developers are designing games around thumbsticks rather than trackpads now.
Yeah, true. Although if you played Vertigo 2, then you will again appreciate the touchpads.
Yeah, but
it has its place. But for a gun, no.
The thing with Vertigo is that it was very cleverly designed around the trackpad.
Yeah.
But it works extremely well also on the Oculus controllers. That's just a very well developed game.
The thing with the Steam controller is that it allowed me to play PC games that normally require mouse control, because you can flick with a trackpad much faster than with a thumbstick. It requires some practice in order to do it, but if you get quite good at that, it gets pretty close.
I do think the Steam controller with the trackpad that you're talking about, Rowdy, is really great for those kind of games, like strategy games on a monitor if you want to play.
I'm talking about first-person shooters.
Yeah,
but I just don't think it's got its place anymore for VR controllers. Definitely not.
I mean, I disagree with that, but I understand why. I just don't think that thumbsticks work very well with first-person shooters in general. But of course, you don't really need that with VR, because you aim anyway with aiming your controller.
But you need that method to move around, and I think that's the thing. Like especially with the aim controller,
better.
With Firewall, having the thumbstick to navigate and move around your character was amazing.
But holding a gun, a VR haptic gun, like the PSVR aim controller, you need to have the thumbstick because you're already holding it in a certain way, and it's very complicated to then also be using a trackpad at the same time.
This is opening a great conversation thread, which is, as you're playing an FPS and you're using an accessory that not everyone else has, like a ProTube, for example, is this usually, in my opinion, it's a trade-off of I want more immersion, but I'm going to take the hit. So, for example, I'm moving myself physically to move the gun, but it looks like I'm holding a rifle or whatever it is when I'm using it. But I'm moving a lot slower, to Rowdy's example, than I can with a touchpad input to flick my character around. And the disadvantage of a thumbstick is usually it's linear or linear accelerated motion, which for a Quake player like me is too slow to do a swing turn like you would with a mouse, for example. So,
is this controller aimed only for VR use, or is it also for regular PC use?
Only for VR use.
Then it makes sense, because you would have, no, it doesn't make sense. Then it would make sense to have a thumbstick then, because you would only use it for movement. That's why I said I like the combination of the two, where you have a thumbstick for movement and the trackpad for fine motor control.
And that's exactly what I was trying to say in terms of the thread here. Is I think that if you're going to be playing an FPS, the FPS itself should have some mechanism to force a player to do room scale motion and not use any kind of input for smooth turning. It should be real turning only. If you're going to have a fair playing field in something like a game like Onward or that, these tools only become useful in a competitive environment if they're better than the analog stick or trackpad turn. And if they don't disable that, then it really all it is it's an immersion add-on.
I think the issue is support. because if it's got like, its own trackpad, it's going to require specific dev support to implement its functionality in any game.
Yeah.
And I think, that's always the challenge with these kind of haptic accessories is game support, because, as we've seen with bHaptics, they've gone through, a painful process where they tried to get devs to implement bHaptics. Some did, most said that they didn't have the time. So what they ended up doing, which I think was really smart of them, was being proactive and making mods for the most popular games like Half-Life Alyx and Population 1, which added bHaptic support to it. And, it's unclear as to what the plan is with this striker gun, whether they're going to approach devs, and say, look, we want you to implement it, or they do the implementation through a mod like bHaptics have. But at the moment...
I see that the same point that you made is something that GT said as well. Like he says in the chat, I would say that $199 standalone, and they should chuck some software in it to make the most of it. The reason that the aim controller was great was the Farpoint and Firewall bundle. So it had indeed that support that of those games were really well advertised as well.
And all you need is one or two fantastic games that'll really sell it. Like that, the Wii used to have this controller for a Zelda game that was like a crossbow or something, and that was the only game that it supported, but people still bought it because it was a solid title. Farpoint was an amazing bundle with that. I mean, it was pricey.
Right,
it was £80. It was £80 for the gun and the game, and that's not cheap for an experience that lasts you 8 hours, So.
The price point for this is $500 They're planning support for PC VR and Oculus Quest, interestingly, although how they're going to do that we're not quite sure, because obviously with Steam VR you could use like a Vive tracker, or you could slot a controller in. They might just go the same method with the Quest as well, just like have a method to slot a Quest controller in, because I know that Oculus are quite closed in terms of letting their tracking technology out to third parties, so I think that's probably unlikely. But it's a similar sort of price to what ProTube are offering with a Force Tube, so I think price wise it is what it is right now until the market grows in that area.
It's exactly. I mean, these are all expensive. One thing I just wanted to mention about these striker guys is they've been around. Like, I'm running a video at the moment that's 5 years old, like June 2015. These guys have been around this whole time, survived that long. I think, again, this is the problem with COVID from last year, is that they have been a real prominent showcase on convention floors, in arcades. It is a pricey accessory, but if you're an arcade, you can stomach it. I would say this is the same problem that the Force Tube folks have, is that, swallowing $500 for any accessory on top of a headset that's $300 to $600, that's tough. I mean, some people will do it, but it's not even 5% of the market that's going to decide.
But if your arcades are closed and no one is buying any licenses for games right now, then you got to try something. So
I agree with the strategy, right? They've got to stay alive. But
plus, ProTube is more made for the hardcore VR FPS fanatics. Well, this is going to be more aimed to also
casual.
people, exactly, casuals. I'm not saying that casual people have, but it's maybe easier for people to get a connection with this. But then compared to the ProTube, of course, it's just one big chunk of a gun. Well, the other one, you can really change it for every game you play. But that's the difference between,
It's also a problem. I mean, who from you have used the Force Tube even and knocked something over or bumped something with the end of the gun? This is a massive hunk of plastic, even in comparison to the Force Tube. So it's a problem for people in small places to be swinging around something this size.
But I still think, as you said, if there is one or two games that support this in a proper way, I think that's enough to kind of make it take off, even for its price. But they need to prove that. If there's no real game and people play these tech demos with it, you're not gonna pay $500.
It's like those. You remember those Mac controllers back in the days? Those were like
that was amazing.
Buttons and stuff like that.
That was so good. Yeah, I would love that in VR.
The modern version of that is the farming simulator controller, which is, if anyone's not seen it, it's like this giant tractor array of 3 controllers. It's like if you took a HOTAS and then had a horrible nightmare. That's what it looks like. A hunk of plastic, tons of buttons.
I need to go and check that out.
You need to check this out, Mike. It's scary. It's probably scary.
But yeah, that is the Striker VR gun accessory. Like I said, they're bringing it to consumers. We don't have a sort of a release window or anything like that, but they reckon it's going to be about $500.
It's going to happen fast, I think, because this sounds like a survival tactic from them. They have to sell something to keep afloat.
Well, fingers crossed they can get the devs on board, or at least, like I say, make some mods like Haptic did it the smart way. Yeah. And maybe you'll find your favorite game gets that kind of support, and then you might be interested in checking it out if you've got the budget for it, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is Striker VR haptic gun. Next thing I want to talk about is the Oculus are starting to sell refurbished Oculus Quest 1s. So now you can bag an original 64GB Oculus Quest for just $200, although this will be for a limited time whilst the stock lasts. And this offer is only available in the US, so sadly, those of us in the UK and Europe can't take advantage of this.
Of course.
Of course.
So what do you guys think of this? Like, would you, if you were, tight on funds, would you be willing to go out and buy a refurbished Quest, or would you hold out a little bit longer to get the Quest 2 for $300?
That's what I would do. I would definitely hold out.
I wouldn't eat for a week. I'd get the Quest 2. There's no Quest 2 kills Quest 1. Period. I'm glad they're doing it, but yeah.
If you look at the history of how quickly Oculus kills off headsets, the Oculus Go is already gone, the Oculus Rift is gone, the Rift S is about to go or is already gone. I don't know what the status of that one is by now. How much longer is the Oculus Quest, the original one, going to be around? I don't think it's going to be
viable, right? From a dev perspective, there's so many features now. It's kind of like having a PS4 and not the PS4 Pro. There's enough of a gap there that if you've tried the latter, you don't want to go backwards. I would say the gap between Quest 1 and Quest 2 is even more substantial than that.
I think so. Yeah, it's a more substantial jump.
It's a substantial jump, and it's to the point where once you've used Quest 2, you don't want to go back. I'd love to say I was paid to say that because, it's annoying. It was so annoying putting on the Quest 2 and have these two feckers be right about that, and then have two of Quest 1s in my house be basically useless to me,
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Like software-wise, it's a risk. Yeah, if you see how things are disappearing, in the background, there are things that I just miss because reasons why I would still buy a Quest 1, and this is not relevant to anyone who wants to buy a Quest 1, is the IPD slider, amazing. Mm-hmm. The strap, amazing, with the actual pull mechanic that the Elite straps don't have right now, and that's why they break. So there are still things that make this Quest 1 amazing.
The strap is a very good point.
From the inside perspective, yeah, you're right. Quest 2, far better. But from the outside, I still think Quest 1 is more solid.
So, I think the price also still a bit high, no? $200 for a refurbished.
Oh, I mean,
half price.
If you buy a second-hand one, you can get one for $150.
Yeah, this is official. This is from the company with the warranty, so
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's
why I should state, because we had a funny comment from gaming science teacher that says, "Ooh, refurb, yuck, for something you put on your head and face," and I guess she's referring to it's been on someone else's face. But Oculus state that all refurbished Oculus Quest products are inspected, cleaned, and tested to work and look like new. These refurbished units are also backed by a 30-day returns policy and also offer a six-month warranty on them.
Imagine you unbox it and you find this dried up booger on the...
Oh, dude!
You just paint the most beautiful pictures, Nathan. Thank you.
That's why you should buy a Quest.
But I think right now, there isn't that much difference in terms of the library. We can play the same games that are available on Quest 2 and Quest 1 still at the moment. There isn't really...
not completely, because, for example, Rec Room, if you want to play Rec Royale and some other, you're already kind of getting restricted now, slowly. So, again, it's a risk.
Also,
very risky.
On the other side, this is very interesting, but do you guys remember when they brought over the Gear VR and Go support into the Quest store? I don't believe on Quest 2 you can install those games. I think they only work on Quest 1. So there's a reason. If you really like that short list of 30-odd games, they completely abandoned that afterwards. And it wasn't a big success. I'm sure it didn't sell very well for them at all.
It was quite hidden away, to be fair, as well.
It was hidden. It was a test, right? And they were testing it to see if it would fly. It didn't fly, and so they just left it. And that's fine. I don't disagree.
Better question then. Why are they doing this now? And why is it limited? Because I'm sure we can all agree they're getting rid of some old, that they have been laying around that people have been, sending back, and they're like, we still need to make some quick money.
Yeah, like they probably got a surplus stock and they just want to get rid of them.
Yeah, they've just waited out until they were not selling it anymore.
Oh,
now they
wait,
have
it's stock. It's not refurbished.
No, it is refurbished. Yeah,
it's
it
a
is refurbished.
stock of refurbished.
But the point is, there's a returns process. They will take that in. They can't immediately resell it, so it becomes a warehouse job, right? And I would agree. Like the fact that they're saying limited, still, when you see that as a consumer, you go, oh right, it could run out any time. When I see that coming from Facebook with their size, they must have thousands of these already ready, boxed, ready to go to ship, etc., to sell, obviously to the North American market, right? So it's interesting because they've been stockpiling these and now they're kind of getting rid of them. But at some point, like what Rowdy was saying, that'll dry up. Support for Quest 1 will drop. They'll stop selling Quest 1s, and then it'll just be secondary market where you can get these things.
But this is another sign that it's happening.
Yeah.
But what will happen to all the refurbished ones in Europe then? Or they just get sent back to the US and they're now selling it to US people?
They go to the desert.
But
ET cartridges, they dig them into.
You asked why.
There's still some room there.
Let me answer your question there, Nathan. Like, why would Oculus and Facebook decide to do this now? I think they're doubling down on the fact that right now, and it hurts all of their competitors, they are in such a price advantage that now they have the option to say, guess what, guys? Screw you. I'm going to allow a headset that I can sell for $200 now. It like double shafts their competition that's sitting up at $600 or $800, and they can't touch them. It starts to become a very difficult a difficult thing to say, okay, I don't like the Facebook log into their policies, so I don't want to buy their headset. And then you go to the shelf and you go, do I really want to spend $800 on an Index, or do I want to spend $600 on a Windows mixed reality device?
Yeah, and I think for most of us, or for those of you that are watching or listening to this podcast, you're informed, so you probably know to hold on a little bit longer, save that little bit of extra money. Yeah. But maybe for the average consumer, they just see it, well, that's a really good deal. I'm saving $100. What's the real difference? I don't really care. Let's just go for it.
Exactly. That might be the thing. Like maybe it's the incentive that they want to give to pull them into the ecosystem.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Say, we get them in now, and they might later get a Quest 2 when we stop support for Quest 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But they're going to do that again. I promise you. At some stage, you'll be able to buy for like $100 a Quest 2, 2-3 years from now. Something like that. They're gonna get to that $100 mark as soon as they can.
And I'm sure that then the Elite straps are easy to get your hands onto as well. They have a lot of refurbished.
They'll be the holy
straps laying around.
The ones that survived.
Yeah, the ones that survived.
I love the point that Nathan made, though. Like, the strap on the original is so robust. Have you ever heard of a Quest 1 strap breaking?
Only like after like years, like a year or so.
But
some people were pulling them all the way out and stuff. But
the spring load in there was just a genius thing. I still think that the Quest 2 from the outside is just a cheap version of the Quest 1. The Quest 1 is more premium from the outside.
It's not the materials that's the problem.
No,
the problem is the design, because I call this out. There's torsion in the because of the twist. Engineering wise, with plastic, that is a bad decision. And the problem is it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep breaking until they change that design. I wonder if they can actually, because it's mounted at an angle. So are they going to actually end up addressing that with a new product? The doubly elite strap, the Boss Elite strap. Like, what's it going to be?
Boss Elite strap. Level 100.
They gotta fix it. I hope they fix it. I hope they just ignore the problem.
I think they found out that no one really cares, and that the soft strap is something people use all the time. I see people using it all the time.
All the time.
And they're not gonna upgrade that.
I burnt mine the second it came off my Quest. Yeah, put it on again.
Getting high off the fumes, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if you are interested in taking this offer up, which personally we wouldn't recommend, we would recommend you hold on a little bit longer, get the Quest 2. But you can check out this offer, which is available on oculus.com/Quest if you want to get one for $200. So, a final bit of news this week is that JVC are going to be releasing their new XR headset for business and enterprise applications. The headset, which has a really catchy name, get ready for this, HMD VS1W, just rolls off the tongue, is due to release as soon as March. Now, information about this headset is kind of scarce at this point because it seems like it's aimed at the Japanese market, not for us in the West. This is the first HMD we've seen from JVC, so it's kind of cool that more big companies like them, at least, are making hardware in this space. I think that's pretty good news. But what makes this headset unique is that instead of using cameras for a pass-through mode, like other high-end enterprise sort of business-focused headsets like the Vario, for example, this headset uses a proprietary mirror display, so it's opaque. You can see right through the display like an AR headset. And what they're selling they're sort of promoting the main use cases are simulation training for driving cars and flying planes. For example, you can see the physical dashboard of a car or the cockpit and the controls of a plane, but then overlay the virtual driving or flight experience over the top.
Oh my God, wait, say that again. So this is for real world driving, and this is just for sim?
It's a bit of both. So what they're kind of showing in their trailer is that you'll have a physical cockpit with a blank kind of windscreen, for example, and then they'll have the virtual world overlaid on that part of it, but the rest will be kind of like opaque, see-through-ish, so you can still use your hands to manipulate the physical controls.
2 words.
Kind of an interesting...
Vehicular homicide. Right? It's coming.
They're not actually driving on roads, Zim. It's not like Carmageddon. This is like in a sterile training environment.
Oh, right. No, because remember, we saw that other headset a while back that they were it was it Volvo or somebody. They were showing
that was the
somebody
Vario.
driving.
That was the Varjo or the Vario.
Yeah. Okay, Grant, I'm good now. I'm good.
Okay.
So JVC, just some background. They are making cameras, right? Video cameras. They are also. Didn't they also make TVs back? I don't know about that.
They sell cheap headphones in airports that are
DVD players.
Okay.
So they're a big electronics name for many years, and actually, this isn't the first. This isn't the first time we've heard of VR equipment from them. Actually, I was seeing articles a while back, back from like 2018 and stuff, with JVC talking about products and prototypes and stuff like that. So very interesting to see them now introduce this headset. It's quite a different approach to what we've seen with this kind of opaque front end. Yeah.
I don't know whether from a business or an enterprise point of view that this is appealing. I'm not quite sure. It certainly seems that Vario are kind of leading the pack when it comes to like enterprise business solutions.
Yeah, because they also have the software and things like that, and it depends if they can pull that off too, in a proper way. But something that I've seen people talk about is that the trailer that we are showing you right now, this is why you should be watching our video version of. So all these pictures that you see of people wearing this headset are stock pictures, and if you look them up, those people are not wearing that headset. They just copy pasted those headsets onto those people. So there is no real picture of someone wearing it. So it could be that it's not even ready yet where it's wearable. You know what I mean? Because there's no evidence. All those pictures are fake. Agree? Or am I just
no, they are
going into the conspiracy stuff?
No, they are
yeah, they are definitely fake. You can see it. But that's something that I just wanted to say. So it's not clear yet if this is an actual working thing yet.
This seems to be a thing they do out east, though. They seem to do this a lot in their trailers, where they're just like, "Oh, we'll pay someone do a fancy Photoshop job, and we'll just spackle the headset in." Can you imagine if somebody in the Western market tried that? Like, they would just get ripped to shit on Reddit. Like, I hope they will. I hope someone will do that.
Those work well on LinkedIn. I see them constantly like, "Oh, look at this headset." I'm like, you guys have no idea how Photoshop works, apparently.
Oh my God.
So to give you some specs, the headset features 2560 by 1440 pixels per eye resolution, 120 degrees field of view, and it runs at 60 or 72 hertz. It's compatible with Steam VR tracking, meaning that you can use Steam VR base stations and controllers, such as the original Vive ones and the Valve Index controllers. So that's why it's kind of interesting, because it's kind of got this AR kind of aspect to it, but it uses Steam VR tracking. Kind of unique.
How heavy do you think this thing is going to be?
That information is available, but I didn't.
Oh, it is available. Okay.
It is available. Yeah,
but it doesn't look light.
Yeah, it doesn't.
No, the full specs are available in an article from Road to VR if you're interested in checking it out. There is no pricing on this headset just yet, but with most kind of these high-end headsets, they're going to be expensive, so don't really consider it anyway. But you never know. JVC might consider making consumer headsets in the future. Might be a thing.
Be interesting.
Once VR grows even more, if they've had their hands in already.
Well, it's Japan. Like VR is huge in Japan. I mean, they were one of the first people to early adopt the DK1. So I mean,
we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is JVC dipping their toes in the XR market.
You want me to go ahead and dip into Reddit there, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, go for it. You
Okay.
dive in.
We just didn't pre-align, so I didn't know. And for all those who thought there was I had a special super hot moment earlier. My internet hiccuped, and you guys all froze. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. For the first time in the life of this podcast, you guys were all static, and I was there just having a blast of a time. It was great.
Happens to me all the time. How did you feel?
Oh, it was fantastic. I was like a free man, newly born. So let me tell you what I fished up from Reddit. 2 small things.
Sure.
You know, the thing I tried to do, and I put a couple of hours into it, and I came up almost empty-handed, was I wanted to do a kind of a summary of all the subreddits that you didn't know about that were VR related. Unfortunately, you probably already know them. PSVR, you know, NSFW, Oculus, all these various ones that I'm sure you're familiar with. But there's one that I found which is quite good, and I never knew about it, and it's new to me. So there's a VR game deals subreddit, which shows you like current packages, gives you coupons, gives you bundles, discounts, that kind of stuff. And also, this is the thing that I really like about it, because I've seen these kinds of tracker sites before, and they've not been very good, is it gives you expired notices on the deals that have since crossed. So this is one that I would just recommend. I saw a few things on there that I like the look of, and I thought I would just kind of mention to you this VR game deals subreddit. So that's available at reddit.com/r/VR game deals. So
Deals.
You know that by showing this, you're putting yourself out of work with this podcast, because someone were like, oh, just, Zoom, whatever, man. Just click on the link, done. But okay.
I'm trying to follow the logic, but maybe I'm too confused. What do you mean, that they're going to go and spend all their money and not be able to come and watch a free podcast? What do you mean?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. No, but it's like people should still be, checking your releases out, and also these deals, because it's more interactive.
These are like, and the thing is, a lot of these are like, available for a day, available for a week. They're things that if you don't really pay attention, I mean, the cadence of our show is great to show you what's come out this week or what you might have missed last week. It's not good for stuff that's burning. So for burning stuff, check out this new subreddit. The second thing I wanted to mention, which I saw from the PSVR, from the depths of the PSVR sub, and I found hilarious, was a situation that I have not faced, but some of you PSV owners might have. So you'll be familiar with the PSVR subreddit, which is just r/PSVR. Great sub, by the way. I think it's one of my favorites. Quite a balanced community. I would say that I've never seen this problem. Someone posts, MyesBear says, hello, I've never seen my PSVR motion controllers turn green before. Does this have any specific meaning, or are they broken? They've always been blue when I've logged in, and I don't know if any of you have ever seen bright green Neo controllers.
Green, no, I've seen blue and red.
Yeah, I've seen blue and red. So there is an answer to this. So essentially, when a PSVR is picked up, the controller system will choose a color that is easily tracked by the camera. And so in this case, based upon the operating environments, the system is cycled through to green. And it's quite a rare situation.
Okay, so the camera is looking at your room, and it just sees certain colors. It's like, okay, this color matches the best with your light conditions.
Yeah,
that's genius, man.
I can almost,
like amazing.
It's very cool, because I've seen, like Mike said, I've seen the red ones are the kind of pinky color.
Yeah, for me it was always purple, and I've seen red too. And what was the other one again? Then you guys mentioned another color.
Blue. They're like blue. Always blue. Just like the end of the aim controller. This is the thing I was wondering as well when Mike was picking up his aim controller earlier. I've seen it do blue and I've seen it do red, but I think that's the same deal, right? It just cycles through colors to kind of pick up the tracking and match your background. The reason we probably haven't seen it is most of us are dealing with green screens, and it's not going to match against the green screen, right? So,
and it's funny because Nim Sony in the chat says you can set them to literally any color. He says, when I was using them for a DIY PC VR project, I just set them to what was best in my room. Yeah.
Good.
So you can change them to any color you want.
But if you see them go green, it's not like the red ring of death. It's not the green virus that your PSVR has. I thought I would just share that tip. And if anyone out there is feeling like no one's seen this problem before, that answers it. And that's our deep dive into Reddit.
A couple of other Reddit things I want to mention is
Sure.
that there is another funny, well, sometimes funny subreddit, and
Sometimes.
that is VR to ER. And it's basically people failing to set up their Guardian system. So, you know, like Zim mentioned earlier with Gorilla Tag, you know, make sure you've got adequate room. There's plenty of like injuries and stuff and broken TVs and all sorts of stuff posted on there. But also another useful one is App Lab. That does have its own subreddit now. So that's where they're
good call.
aggregating a lot of the App Lab links. So if you're interested in App Lab content, go and check that out.
Very good. Thank you. Those are good
Thanks.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers, Mike.
So now it's time for us to sit back and get schooled by Rowdy because he's going to give us a Rowdy science lesson on spatial computing, which is going to be interesting.
Correct. Yeah. I'm going to be showing some slides. So for the audio listeners, I'm very, very sorry. But I'll give a fairly good explanation of each slide, so they won't be missing out. Just let me know, Zim, if the slides are actually working, that we're moving to the next one.
Okay, I'll let you know once I see a change, all right?
Okay, I just changed it myself, so it should be kind of happening now.
Okay, let's see.
Well, I see
Yep,
something.
I've got one.
All right, cool. So you see spatial computing, right?
Yes.
All right. So a little while ago, not that long, I read this article in Scientific American that was called "Spatial Computing: The Next Big Thing Beyond Virtual and Augmented Reality," and that kind of piqued my attention as, you know, being a VR and AR enthusiast. So in this short presentation, what I would like to do is just give you all an idea of like what spatial computing is and why it's so important and why they're saying beyond virtual and augmented reality. So in this article, they describe a fictitious character, Martha, who is an octogenarian. I had to look that up first, but apparently that's just a nice word for someone who lives between the ages 80 and 90. That lives independently, and she uses a wheelchair. Now, the text goes as follows. So all objects in her home are digitally cataloged. All sensors and the devices that control objects have been internet enabled. Also, a digital map of her home has been merged with the object map. Now, as Martha moves from her bedroom to the kitchen, the lights switch on and the ambient temperature adjusts. The chair will slowly release if her cat crosses her path. When she reaches the kitchen, the table moves to improve her access to the refrigerator and stove, then moves back when she's ready to eat. Later, if she begins to fall when getting into bed, her furniture shifts to protect her, and an alert goes to her son and the local monitoring station. So that's just like a little bit of an idea of, like, you know, the kind of things that spatial computing can do. But what it actually is in essence is that it's the convergence of the physical and the digital world together. So in a sense, what it does is it digitizes objects and connects these throughout the cloud to allow sensors and motors to react to one another, as well as represent the real world as well. And this is what we call spatial mapping, because it combines all of these technologies with this spatial mapping in order to track and control the movements and interactions of objects as the person navigates through the digital or the physical world. And this has a very strong concept, a very strong parallel with the concept of a digital twin that engineers typically use in programs such as CAD, which is a computer-aided design. So a digital twin that is kind of the generation or a collection of digital data that represents a physical object. Now, the concept of this is, like I said, more in engineering and the creation of engineering drawings and graphics, but they're being more and more used in the creation of product design and just engineering activities. Now, in plain English, this just means that, you know, you create a very highly complex virtual model that is the exact counterpart or twin of a physical thing. Now, with the use of computing increasing the ability in scientific disciplines with the digital twin, you have a wide variety of technologies that are now also implementing this. It could hugely benefit from this, such as natural language processing, machine learning, object visual recognition, acoustic analytics, signal processing. Those are just a few of them that use this kind of technology in order to improve testing. So they can, for example, use a cognitive digital twin to improve testing and determine which product test should be run more frequently, it should be more retired. So this can take us beyond the human intuition to design and refine future machines, as there is no more that one size fits all, but instead, like, machines will be individually customized to any particular individual. Because we're now, with this cognitive digital twin, it's not just about what we're building, but also for whom we're building this. And with spatial computing, so this is kind of the next step, this is not only being done on objects, but also being done on humans and locations using a wide variety of technologies such as GPS, LiDAR, video formatting, all that to provide a digital map. Now, another example that was given in the article was one in the medical field. So it's a rather futuristic and fictitious scenario, but it is very plausible if you keep in mind what we've just talked about. So just to show the potential of spatial computing. So a paramedical team is dispatched to an apartment in a city to handle a patient who might need emergency surgery. As the system sends the patient's medical records and real-time updates to the technician's mobile devices and to the emergency department, it also determines the fastest driving route to reach the person. Red lights hold crossing traffic, and as the ambulance pulls up, the building's entry doors open, revealing an elevator already being in position. Now, objects can also move out of the way as the medics hurry in with a stretcher. We have a particular system that can guide them to the ER room via the quickest route, while a surgical team, all at the same time, uses spatial computing and augmented reality to map out the choreography of the entire operating room or plan a surgical path throughout this patient's body. I think we can all agree that this kind of technology is the future in a certain way. The amount of efficiency that we reach by doing this is incredible. But what is it exactly? Because it's very hard to pinpoint one certain technology and say, okay, well, that is spatial computing. Spatial computing is more of an umbrella concept resulting from the combination of a very wide selection of technologies. And spatial computing also allows us to step inside the world of computers rather than just interacting with it. And that is how we're getting more close to the virtual reality segment of this. And this is a result of the fact that computers just haven't been static anymore for a long time. Nowadays, you can find a computer chip and pretty much everything, from your phone to your fridge to your TV to even our virtual reality headsets. And it has a very wide, a very large potential in a very wide variety of fields. Although it's not always equally successful, because I found this one example where a police robot told a woman to just go away after she tried to report a crime. And after that, it just trundled off and started singing a song. So there's still some work that needs to be done in order to get this to the next level. So what about the combination then with AR and VR? Why is it the step beyond these two technologies? So spatial computing and AR are actually really intertwined with one another. You can think of things like, for example, giving repair instructions in both the real world and the training environment, and also the operation of robots using remote control, using VR, AR glasses. And likewise, the combination of virtual reality and augmented reality with the real world would greatly improve the efficient flow of work. So I suggest we just start doing it. And, everyone is working on this kind of technology in this kind of field. But the biggest issue is, and it's something that we've highlighted throughout the podcast as well, is like with most new technology in the current landscape, is that it requires adoption, widespread adoption. And there are a lot of challenges involved in getting anyone to adopt and deploy new technology. This is particularly true in large social spaces and businesses that already have a certain set way of doing things. And many companies in the world are struggling to move away from hardware commitments into software in the cloud. People are also having a very hard time to just embrace spatial computing. But as we saw with the recent rise of work from home due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this could kind of push us to develop more into this kind of technology and also see us more the potential of technologies like this. However, as a last slide, I want to just comment on dumb people, in my opinion at least. It highlights the rather dumb argument that VR is a fad, as we sometimes hear in the current media. The question remains, of course, whether the technology is ready for mass adoption in its current state. But I think that history has shown plenty of times that humanity's hunger for technological improvement typically creates like the necessary drive for these kind of technologies to develop further, and ultimately leading to a market disruption, which I really think that VR, AR, and spatial computing together will do. That was it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So what applications do you feel that, could in the near term at least help us like for productivity in VR? Is it just because, that we'll implement some sort of smart keyboard into VR and, we'll be able
to... I think that the what we've talked about already a couple of shows a couple of weeks ago is that the focus on that business development. I really think that we're getting there with like bringing the office into VR is like the next step in like, the way that people will interact with one another. The internet was a really big change in this, the way that we communicate with each other, the way that we get information. And this is like a kind of like a logical follow-up to this. That's how I see it. And you see now the internet is being implemented in every industry, from entertainment to the medical field to engineering. Communication, all is done with the internet. And I think that technology that adopt this really rather quickly is particularly seen in the medical field. The medical field uses the internet for a wide variety of things, and I think that like the example that we gave with the medical field with spatial computing, just to increase efficiency, which is something that we always try to do, in any kind of industry. But I think especially in the medical field, it's very crucial that the workflow there is optimized, is very efficient. So I think the medical fields and the home office environment will be the things that we see rather quickly and are being implemented already.
Yeah, and I think, certainly for me, I would love to just like declutter everything, on my desk, because everyone's got like monitors, they've got keyboards, mice, other peripherals lying around everywhere. If you can just streamline that, have like a nice chair, you sit back and your digital workplace is just all laid out, nicely in front of you, and you've got an infinite amount of monitors and information that you can access all at the same time. That kind of
Minority Report that is then
style.
Also mapped to the room that you're in, so fully mapped to. So it could be like a virtual room, but actually mapped so your chair is in the correct place where you're sitting. There's a window in that room where you're looking out. There's so many things that you can do with this kind of technology that I think it's bound to happen almost. Technology has always been this is one of the main drivers for humanity. It's like we always want to evolve and get further into this, and I think that this is just almost a logical step in our evolution.
That's a cool episode of Rowdy Science. I have to say though that the maybe not the near future, but the long-term future, I just picture that lovely ship with all the bloated people on Wall-E, Like they're all just there with their sodas and stuff, sitting by the beach, and they're like flopping over, and the robot comes and props their arm up. Like, I do worry a little bit that is it going to make humanity that lazy. I love the example that the article went through and that you talked us through, Rowdy, where somebody's in a compromised situation, falls out of a bed at the age of 90, gets assisted, let's say, immediately, and they've got emergency services on the way. But I do think about the basement dwellers out there. No offense to our basement dwellers watching the podcast now, but
of course,
lazy gets lazier. You know what I mean?
But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily intertwine the two together. That this will make us lazier. It will make things easier for sure, but it will also make it easier to exercise. It will also make it easier to go out in a certain way, to move about. I mean, not to actually physically go out, but to move about. And it will, there's so many potentials, I think, for like interesting game developers to actually use the real world in order to make it more interesting, maybe for people to go out in it as well, which I think is something that is maybe bound to happen as well. So we all remember that scene from I think Ready Player One, where they're all like running outside, and they have their you see them just running in the real world, and then you see what they're actually seeing, where they're running into this wide open field. But imagine that kind of thing where the entire world will be. There will be a digital twin of the world where you can go into, and you can put a skin over that, and all of a sudden it's World of Warcraft, and you go outside in that world and interact with people like that. And those kind of things are being done. That is technologies that people are working on, and I think that's a very exciting exciting future.
It is. I think the thing for me is, like, again, you said digital twin. Like, at some point, you'll be able to meet your own digital twin. You know what I mean? Like, at some stage, it's not just the shadow layer behind me that, I don't know, let's say the data that Facebook's gathering at the moment. But at some stage, you'd be able to arrange, like, almost just meeting that person. What is my digital fingerprint? And actually have a conversation with them. And that could be really interesting.
And that is again like the example of where technology moves faster than ethical decisions that needs to be done on a government or a political or a moral level, because it's very hard to like stop that kind of thing, because we already see it happening where they're like bringing people back from the dead by making a digital avatar of someone. And for those of you who read Ready Player 2, I'm not going to give any spoilers or not too much, but they touch on that concept as well, which is interesting because you get a digital representation of yourself that could be almost
Similar.
exactly equal to what you are. And then, of course, you get the question, which is a philosophical question, which one is the real you? Because there's an example, I'll briefly give it. It's like, I forgot the name, how you call these kind of stories, but I'll just tell the story. There's a man who has a ship, and one of the boards from the ship breaks. So he takes the old board off, and he puts the new board on there. Oh. Is it still the same ship? That's the first question I ask you guys. Is it still the same ship if he replaces one of the boards?
It's changed, hasn't it? So it's slightly different, but it is the same, ultimately the same ship, but it's slightly different.
Okay, and then he replaces, this goes on and on and on, and he eventually replaces all of the boards on the ship. So there's not a single one of the old ones there anymore. Is it still the same ship?
I mean, that's the same thing that happens with us. Like, I am no longer a single cell, I think, that I was when I was 15 or something, right?
It doesn't stop there. So now someone collects all of those old boards that got thrown away and builds the old ship back from those old boards. So now you have two ships, one with the old boards and one with the new boards. Well, which one is the real ship?
Oh my God!
It's like you get these kind of conversations going where you don't know how to answer these anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the one that existed first, but yeah, I mean. Yeah.
But certainly, like in the situation that we're in now, where a lot of people are stuck at home. I know lockdown restrictions are different across the world, but certainly here in the UK, we've been stuck in this lockdown mess since like March, last year. So, it feels like it's almost never ending. And I'd imagine that problem is accelerating this kind of technology even more to try and solve the problem, because no one really knows what the world is going to look like in 2-3 years' time.
Nobody is allowed to go out anymore except for in the virtual.
Well, you just don't know. Like, I know it's bleak. It's very Black Mirror-like, and it would be very sad. But we just don't know, do we? We just don't know how things are going to play out from here.
We already live in a Black Mirror episode for a year now. We do.
Yeah, it is very weird. And I appreciate the fact that I have this outlet every weekend. I can talk rubbish with my mates and broadcast it to the internet. It's amazing.
Plus, you can now make plans to have another mic, and you can play video games with Mike. Mike likes Nicolas Cage movies too. You can do all these specific things that you always talk about with your friend Mike.
Mike doesn't play well with others, so I imagine,
Mike and Mike would
I'm
not
going to have
play
some
well.
really special nightmares tonight, I think, Rowdy, with this kind of the permutations that you've just triggered in my brain.
The ship of Theseus, the chat actually helped me out how it was called.
Theseus.
It's this paradox, indeed. The ship of Theseus.
So Angry Tribble says, from Goebbels to philosophy, we've gone a long way. That is very true.
Oh God, yeah.
We've come far in a single episode. But yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Rowdy. If you've got any questions for Rowdy, chuck them in the chat. If you're on the same sort of wavelength of him, of course, which you may not be if you're talking about Goebbels and gerbils. But anyway, now let's hand it over to Zim, because I think we've got some releases to look forward to this week. Am I right?
A few. Yes, this is a drier week than some, but
those are the best.
Let me. They can be. This first one. Have any of you guys heard of Moose Life? Moose Life?
Of course. Yeah. Totally.
Moose Life.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
It's a PSVR game that just released PSVR. So some of you may know Polybius. Any of you recognize Polybius? Polybius was, I think, a legal VR drug trip experience, I would call it, where you were this bull charging down an Atari level graphic corridor, and you were just blasting pixels. This is very much the same, and it's from Llamasoft, the same creators. And really, since the mid-90s, they've been making games like this. And they continue to do so from Wales. Guy loves sheep. I won't go into that. That's not what I meant. He owns a couple of sheep. Well, actually, anyway, I'm not going to judge anyone. It's 2021. But this guy, Jeff Minter, is like a legend. Like he's known for this kind of game. This is another one that's dropped. It was actually out for PC. You can get this on PC VR since August last year. It's called Moose Life because it features a moose. And it's a moose that can invert and run on the ceiling and stuff. But this is like
wait, a spider moose.
It's a spider moose, and it literally is a trippy psychedelic shooter. Is the best way to describe it. If you've only ever seen this in a video and not played the game, you will probably dismiss it very readily, like you would
That's
any
what
other
I'm thinking right now. That's
trippy
what I'm
game,
thinking.
right?
Yeah.
Right. If you play something like this, right, whether it's Polybius or this game, because to be honest, I can't even tell them apart. They're pretty much looking the same. It is so easy to fall down that hole and spend an hour. It's bizarre. It's really strange. And to help me articulate this, I'm going to mention just someone that gave a review on Steam. I love calling people out. So GJ Smith says this: Jeff Minter, the man, the legend, has done it again. Moose Life, despite its terrible title and terrible in-game text, is the absolute business in terms of shooting Dayglow stuff until it shatters into all the pixels in the universe. And having spent several hours in Polybius, I can say that this is the kind of game, if you're looking just for a game that you literally boot up and immediately you're playing, and then you're just playing wave after wave, and it gets a little bit more difficult, and it takes you back to kind of the 80s style gameplay, it actually works quite well in VR. It's weird. It is absolutely weird. Know what you're getting in for. It's a psychedelic shooter, and it's as close to something like Sound Stealth or ayahuasca in that respect. But if you're trying to get yourself into a better mental place, I'd recommend you check out a game like this. If you already own Polybius, I can't see a reason to go and buy Moose Life. But it's got moose. What other VR game has moose?
Does it have aim control support?
No, these are, as far as I know, these are. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any touch controller support of this. I think it's basically gamepad or mouse and keyboard. But
okay.
Anyway, Moose Life, it's there. I wanted to mention it solely because it is the first PSVR release I've seen in months, and
Wow.
The store absolutely buries this. This is not even readily available to new buyers, which I think is sad for Jeff and his team at Llamasoft.
But this is definitely a typical game for the month of February.
It is, unfortunately. February tends to be a bit of a dry month. But we have another brand of horror game also in the works. So there's a company called VR Bros who are releasing a title. Mike pointed this out to me. Thanks, Mike, for this as well. Awake In. It's kind of a weird name. Wake In. So Awake In. Now, I don't have a price on this one, but this one is dropping on the 25th of Feb. That previous title, by the way, is already available. That was out 16th. So Awaken is, if I was to summarize it from everything I've read about this game, it is a wheelchair-bound horror game with difficult locomotion. Okay?
Yes.
I will summarize it that way. Now let me give you the game spiel so they can say to you what they want to be heard. So explore gloomy passages on a wheelchair with an immersive control system, complete with its limitations and difficulties. So you are actually moving with your touch controllers, for example, the wheels on the sides of your chair. But you won't be alone. So mysterious Dr. Finnegan, owner of the estate, will accompany you by the shortwave transmitter. So someone's talking at you, narrating as you go along. You actually happen to be one of these mannequins, and you're going along for the ride. On your way, you'll find many other items, some useful to move forward, some that can give you a hint. And while you're doing this, there are other mannequins in the environment, other dolls similar to you, but they have no friendly intentions. So again, we're back into a Five Nights at Freddy's type experience. They're deadly and raging, and you're going to have to watch out for those. So
finally, Mike's movie makes sense now for the podcast. Thank you, Zim.
Finally, his what? His
movie recommendation.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So Awake In is available for PC VR from the 25th of February, and you got to find your way out. So there's only one other game that I remember being in a wheelchair for.
Let me guess.
That never released. It's not going to be what you guess, I don't think.
Not released?
No,
I thought Wheelchair Simulator VR.
Is there one?
There is one. Yeah, where you have to do stunts and stuff. And it's made by someone who was actually in a wheelchair. And it was a game made for charity, but it's been a while.
Oh, no. There was one that was by Manus VR, and it was an interesting experience. It was about someone who was an alcoholic. You started off with this like series of bottles spread around you, and it was going to be this whole like immersive thing. I don't think it ever actually ended up releasing. I saw it on the show floor of EGX a few times, and I was hoping it would come out, but I don't think that one ever did. Yeah.
So I actually tried this week.
That's good.
Yeah, I got a preview build of Awaken. And I really like the concept of it. Like when they sent me an email and said, you're this kind of like mannequin, you're in a wheelchair. You can actually roll the wheels like you would do if you was in a physical wheelchair, or they have a joystick which you can control the movement with. I thought it was a really interesting, unique concept. I really like the kind of dark and creepy vibe of the house, and that it was a puzzle game as well. Totally up my street. I've been playing a lot of Little Nightmares just recently, and this kind of like almost translated nicely into something that would be in VR that I'd be into. They've got some really clever design mechanics around the wheelchair. So you've got like a kind of tobacco box in front of you that you can flip open. When you collect items, you put them in the tobacco box and they kind of stay there. You use them to solve puzzles throughout the list, like kind of creepy mansion. The one thing that I didn't like about it, and it's just the control method. The problem is that when you simulate being in a wheelchair in VR, and I'm not really that susceptible to motion sickness anymore, but it actually did make me feel a little bit motion sick. And I don't know if it wasn't particularly well optimized, even for my high-end PC, because it was a preview build, so I just got to throw that caveat out there. But I did suffer with frame rates as well. So that combined with the motion didn't make for a particularly enjoyable experience. But that could just be the fact that I had a preview build, and maybe it'll get better on
I don't know.
release.
Like when I played Wheelchair Simulator, I had kind of like the same feels to that. It's just it doesn't match the way you just sit in real life. It's just kind of so, especially when you go up and down too. I don't know if this game also elevates in ways, but that really puts you off in the long run. It's definitely one of the most hardcore things, even that it sounds like you're just sitting and you're moving, but it's
Paradise Decay said he didn't experience any motion sickness with the game, but maybe it's just me.
It's interesting because one of the things that I think if you've got a chair, right, if you're sitting in a chair and this is designed to be a seated experience, a chair with arms, you're going to naturally be hitting those arms. Did you find that when you were playing?
You can adjust the height and stuff in the settings at the beginning, so you can kind of calibrate your virtual wheelchair to the height of your actual chair. So that's pretty smart. And like I said, the way they kind of laid out tools on the wheelchair, you've got like a hook for a torch, and you've got a slot for a radio, and this little tobacco box you can fill up with goodies. I thought it was a really smart idea. I really like the concept, but unfortunately, from what I experienced, I didn't feel like it was something that I was going to particularly enjoy.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Well, thanks for the feedback on that, Mike. That's good to know for that. The one thing I did see in a couple of articles written about the preview build was the interaction of looking to grab an object at kind of waist height, like a drawer or something like that. Often interacted like your hands would grab to the wheels instead of the drawer, and you'd fight a little bit, kind of like what we had in Medal of Honor between the guns, where there were 3 guns in array, and you're like, I just want gun number 2, please, but you just couldn't do it. So I suppose, go on.
They've got a smart system where you can transform your hand. So you've got a normal like animatronic hand, or you can turn it into like one of those grabby pincer hands that's got some distance to it.
Okay.
So you can grab items from afar using that by just swapping it out. I think you press the thumbstick in to swap it over.
Like in Red Matter, like they had that. Like in Red Matter, they had a
very
swapping
similar
mechanism.
But you've just got more length, so you can reach items from afar. I think it's getting used to that, getting accustomed to that kind of gameplay. Maybe
that answers. So they've taken the decision to make you a mannequin so that you can have stretchy arms. Got it.
Yeah. Interchangeable arms. Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple of other things, just little mentions for this week's releases. So one of the things that we got a teaser about this week, yet another teaser, this is probably the 3rd or 4th now, is that The Climb 2 is quote unquote, using air quotes here, very succinctly, coming soon. So for those who've been looking forward to and have been playing the Climb 1, like Nathy, he's basically a mummy at this stage. Dust yourself off, get ready for Climb 2, which is coming. And it looks like it's got some pretty awesome visuals from all the teaser trailers that we've seen so far. I don't know. You guys were talking about this at the beginning. I'm definitely hyped for it. Are you? Are you interested in the Climb?
Yeah.
I think the reason why I'm so excited about it is the urban environments. I like the idea of climbing a skyscraper.
Mirror's
That's going to be awesome. Yeah. I think that's going to be awesome.
I'm just totally the visuals. To see like how much the difference is between like the Climb 1 and the Climb 2, you know?
Yeah.
But we don't know if it's going to be released on PC at this point. I think that's going to be
Is anyone still asking about that?
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you want to play it on PC for the high-end visuals, because, you know, Climb 1 was always a stunner.
It didn't release on Steam, right? It was always an Oculus exclusive.
Oculus exclusive, yeah.
Yeah.
What I'd also really like to see is physical, like, multiplayer where you actually see your friend
not the ghosting
in the game.
mode.
Not the ghost mode. Yeah, I want to
Like
actually go climbing with one of you guys.
Can make him
that'd be
trip,
really
right?
cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Multiplayer, I think, especially when it's got 2 in
Sabotage.
the title. But yeah, for me, like what Rowdy was saying, it's the visuals, it's the kind of environment, because it's really tranquil. And I know we were just talking about another game where you can kind of take a mental break. That's what I like about the Climb, is that you really do feel like when you are climbing, you know, or bouldering or something, it's a very kind of insular experience. It's something that you get into your own headspace a lot, and it's almost like meditation, right? And it's meditation, and so I found that the Climb 1 was a bit like that. You get these segments of meditation, and then, you know, you get the little, you know, jets or other skydivers flying by you, and woo at the top of the mountain. Yeah,
finding hidden secrets to unlock more gloves and things like that, because you can also, you know, customize your character a little bit. Yeah, no, it's great stuff. And I'm surprised it's coming out so early, because we were waiting for the Climb 1 to come to Quest for so freaking long. It took ages before they pulled the trigger on that. But then this week they're like, oh, we're gonna announce something exciting, and then what they announce is a giveaway. I'm like, yeah, 10 out of 10 marketing, here we go again. Like, they're just throwing it out like there's no tomorrow. And I think this is one of the last games that Oculus is invested in for Quest 2. What is the next lineup?
What's left?
I think.
Yeah, unless we say that
from the first time they announced games for Quest, you know what I mean? We had you know, all these like, you remember the trailers, the first steps.
Oh, you mean like from the box and stuff? Yeah. I suppose aside from Horizon,
it's like what are we gonna see this year? I mean, the year is just started, so Horizon.
So, all right, there was one last thing I wanted to mention, which is interesting. A game that's changed its name, and it's one of the games that I've been most looking forward to in 2021. So you might have followed the whole Phasmophobia kind of spiel. Don't get too excited. Phasmophobia is not confirmed for VR. It's not coming. That's not what I'm talking about. Cosmophobia was a game that was previously announced by White Door Games, the creators of Dreadhalls. They've changed their name. So now instead of Cosmophobia, the name is Cosmodread. And Cosmodread will be landing March 25th. So we've got just a little over a month, and this is confirmed now for both Quest and PC VR. This is one of those roguelike experiences where you're, again, like Dreadhalls was, going through essentially a space dungeon, I'll call it that, and trying to survive with some tools and accessories that you've got, trying to survive that game loop again and again and again. It looks creepy as hell. I look forward to the kind of space environment, which will be a nice vacation from the Egyptian tomb of Dreadhalls. But yeah, looking forward to Cosmodread. So keep that one on your wish lists, and get forward to get frightened. All right.
Nice.
And that's it for releases this week. Yeah.
Quick mention, Population 1 Season 1 is dropping. We'll have the details when we know more, probably next week. And potentially Hyperdash. I'm not quite sure, though, so don't take my word on that one. I'm not 100%. But I just thought I'd mention it anyway because it's a great game, and I really enjoyed it. Previous side quest exclusive.
Sure.
So, yeah. So maybe I thought, as we're running a bit early, ahead of schedule, which is very unusual for us.
We're going to end the show.
Well, I was gonna ask if anyone's got any questions while I sort of recap the times.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can take a couple of questions before we say goodbye.
Sounds
so,
good.
Just a reminder, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube and on Twitch. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed the show and loved Rowdy's Rowdy Science segment, and subscribe to the channel for more. And I want to thank Val for sponsoring the show as well.
The
So
Winter
thank you to them.
Games.
So let's see. Fabster asks Link's mixed reality headset. So that's the one we talked about a few months back with the crazy prism style lenses.
Oh yeah.
We haven't really heard that much, although they did release a mixed reality
Today,
through the lenses capture of some stuff. So if you're interested in checking that out, go and check them out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Hyperdash is confirmed to release on the 25th. Thank you very much to Dave the Psycho for that. It's an awesome game, by the way.
Very
I'm
good.
really excited to see how the community pick that one up. I know it's kind of got some competition now, but hopefully it can stand on its own
It's
anyway.
smooth. It's so smooth. That's the thing. The riding, if you don't know it, it's a bit like Jet Set Radio for VR combined with, I'll say Quake or UT or something. Team Fortress is probably a better example. But you're just riding these rails and it's just beautiful. And the guns and the environments they're just set to run very smoothly. Again, prior to Solaris ever dropping, and that's probably its nearest cousin in my opinion. That game it's just gorgeous the way it runs. It's beautifully performing.
Well, because Solaris just didn't perform well in the end, I think this game Hyperdash is gonna take over the show. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Watto UK asks, who's going to get tired first in Zim's Gorilla Tag tournament tomorrow? Well, I know what to expect now, so I'm going to be stretching because you're going to need to stretch before this game because you're going to get sore. That's all I'm going to say. But we'll see. We'll put bets on.
Yeah. We'll put bets on down the bookies, for the Gorilla Tag tomorrow.
Could you invite Robert Scoble on to talk about the current state of spatial computing? Yeah, we could always ask him. He's kind of one of those people that's always kind of in around the community, so I guess he would probably be interested in doing that. We've also wanted to talk to investors, actually. We've talked about that between us, about inviting an investor on the show.
True.
To see what their take of the VR industry is like right now.
Actually, I didn't mention it, but there is a subreddit dedicated to virtual reality investors. I forget the name of it now, but you'd find it easily enough. It was something along the lines of like VR investors subreddit. But it's solely dedicated to people doing that. It's interesting. It was a kind of a standalone one. I didn't think this audience would be too interested in it, so I dropped it off.
So question from Caroline Loves Pink. Would there be in the future on Beat Saber multiplayer the option to talk to other players in the lobby? So this was one of my biggest criticisms of when the multiplayer dropped for Beat Saber, because it's all about social, what it should have been anyway, and meeting new friends and making new friends. Whereas the only way you can really do it is by creating a group, a party group, and then inviting people you already know. It works, but it doesn't have the same effect as like Synth Riders multiplayer, which previously sponsored the show, and they had an excellent multiplayer mode where it gave you the opportunity to meet new people, and I feel like that's what VR should be all about. And certainly for Beat Games, who are now a first-party Facebook Oculus studio, they should know better, in my opinion, anyway.
Especially because they're so focused on social, right? Facebook.
Well, and especially because you have.
Right, this is the thing. Like Nathan made this comment the other day. I don't remember if we were live or not, but like Facebook being focused on social, they are doing a great job of it. I mean, look at venues. Have you tried to connect with a friend and jump into venues?
You can't.
You basically can't. It's almost impossible. And they hide where your friends are. I have to, every time I go in, there's people like fumbling. They clearly want to connect with friends. They've got no idea how to do it. So I stand there and give them a tutorial. But like, I don't understand.
I do that on purpose, but
you do that on purpose, do you? Yeah. Oh.
So one last question from Paradise Decay. If you could have any guest on the show, who would it be and why?
Well, the spatial version of Mike.
I really like these. I like these Rowdy Science episodes. So I'll say an undead Albert Einstein. I'd like to have him on.
Professor VR. Maybe the guy who founded virtual reality in the first place. He is also in the social dilemma.
I'm reading his book.
I really thought you were going to say Elon Musk, Nathan.
Well, I mean that would be nice too, but the founder of virtual reality who came up with this whole idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say Michio Kaku.
Who?
Are you allowed to say that live?
Michio Kaku.
Who is he?
Well, look him up. It's like he's a futurist. He
Okay.
talks about technologies of the future. He knows a lot about also like the Kardashev scales and types of civilizations, and it's just a very interesting kind of person, I think, and he talks very well.
I share the same opinion as D1360 in the chat, and that is to have Palmer Lucky on the show. I know there's a lot of controversy around the guy, but I still think he's an interesting character, and I'd love to get more of an insight into the early days of Oculus. And certainly, if you like that kind of content, go and check out the book, which I mentioned earlier, which is The History of the Future by Blake J. Harris. It gives you a lot of insight into that. But I think that would be really cool to have him on, or John Carmack.
Gaming science teacher, yeah. Isn't John Carmack the correct answer? I would say absolutely, the right blend.
Or Gabe, of course, from Valve.
Or Mark Zuckerberg, for that matter.
Yeah,
I'd love to have
or Mike Verdu to talk about what we're gonna get this year in terms of games.
that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Or Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That's our wish lists.
If you've ever got any suggestions of guests, or that people might be
Kanye
be interested in being on the show, then tag us and let us know.
Joe Rogan, he could learn us some tips. He could say some stuff about our
Learn
podcast.
us real good.
Yeah,
He's got
maybe.
a quest, I think. He's got a quest.
Yeah, he does have a quest.
He's
Yeah.
a fan.
Anyway, let's round up the show. Hope you all enjoyed it. Have a great week in VR, and we'll see you next week, as always, on next week's show. So take care, and bye-bye for now. See you later.
Toodles. Bye.
Bye.